welcome to Turf Wars Season 4, Episode 10. That's quite exciting. Someone on Twitter was just saying, it seems like you only started Season 4 a few weeks ago. And, well, I guess that's true. 10 weeks ago. But here we are. Double digits of this season, which is quite exciting. And I think it's going quite well. But this week, we will be covering, well, the first thing I guess I should say is Happy Lesbian Visibility Week to all of the lesbians watching. Yeah, that's exciting. I guess the bad news on Lesbian Visibility Week is, as we will be finding out later, lesbians are now extinct. So, you know, pros and cons to, if you're a lesbian today, people can see you, but you also don't exist anymore. So we're going to find out more about that as we count down. So maybe the top 5, the top few most ridiculous anti-trans headlines, I think, ever that I've encountered. So that should be fun. We've got a few good brain rot things this week, and a very good top tier transvestigation, which should be fun to cover. But also mainly, I think the first half is going to be news, because there's always too much news, and I, as always, have had to cut out loads of news, but there's a lot of things to talk about this week, so it should be good. Lots of things to cover. The sound is working, the picture's working, it's everything's going well. Episode 10 is going to be a banger. So yeah, I guess we'll get into the news. The first thing is, I thought to start with some good news. Women's Institute will continue to celebrate trans women amid inclusivity row. I mean, this is a Guardian article, so it's garbage and transphobic, but the news is good, and I wanted to cover this article to point out the framing and stuff. But basically, Women's Institute is the largest women's group in the UK. If you're not from the UK, maybe you've not heard it. I don't know if they have international branches or not. But they basically said, yeah, well, we've supported trans rights for ages, so this isn't news. But it is news in a sense, because it was one of the things that the newspapers decided to make a fuss about, and they basically just said, fuck off. So that's quite cool. But we actually got quite a good... It wasn't just a nothing comment, like sometimes you get from Keir Starmer. He's just like, oh, we kind of support trans people, and then that's it. This is quite a strong defense. So they say, Women's Institute will continue to celebrate the lives of trans women, enriching its membership, the head of the organisation said on Tuesday, following reports that it was facing a bid to overturn the inclusive policy. Turns out this is just totally... that isn't a thing. So the CEO, here she is, Melissa Green, says, being part of the Women's Institute is about the experience of being a woman, and that is a combination of both biology and lived experience. Well, yeah, that is true. That's a good comment. That is true. For us, trans women are women, and we want to share and celebrate their experience with them. I know from speaking to so many of our members that they feel that we are enriched by that, and that we learn something about being a woman through the eyes of transgender women. Yeah, cool. This is a very Guardian-y thing, this next bit. It's kind of why I wanted to read more of the article than just the headline. Because it's kind of a non-article in a sense, but it is good news. She downplayed the reports that the Women's Institute is facing a revolt from internal group, which is pushing for an overturn of the policy. A policy which has been in place since the 70s and made official policy in 2015, which allows trans women to join. So, this is clearly a total fucking non-issue. If trans women have been in there since the 70s, so 50 years, and all that time, suddenly it's not been an issue at all. And then now just The Guardian and other newspapers are something like, oh, maybe we should eradicate trans people from women's groups too. But she goes on to, she says there's no plans to renew the policy because we've received no communication suggesting that's what our members want. As an article, an issue of Women's Institute magazine here with a trans woman on the front, which was a while ago. She says they've got a democratic process, so they just argue about it. But Did I highlight it here? Basically, they say they've had like 2 emails saying that people want to get rid of trans women from Women's Institute, and one of them wasn't from someone in the Women's Institute. So it's just a total non-issue. Despite its reputation as a bastion of Middle England, for anyone outside of the UK, that's kind of I guess what's the word? A euphemism for bigoted people? I don't know. They're like saying the average person on the street. It has a long history of taking a progressive and controversial stance. It campaigned on venereal disease in the 1920s, calling for family planning or abortion and contraception in the 1970s, and demanded a prohibition of FGM in 1983. So the thing is, though, those are all Middle England positions. Like, the majority of people do support progressive issues, and it's just we have a political system which is set up to deny the majority of people from having a voice, and we always end up with non-representative governments. But she says, since 1915, we've been a group of well-informed, strong-minded women who debate the big things of the day, and this just happens to be one of them. We're not always going to agree on everything. I don't know why anyone would expect us to. Well done, WI. Good, dealt with a bullshit Guardian interview, told them to fuck off. Good stuff. Moving on. So we've got, there's kind of a good news, fuck you transphobes vibes. So I thought we'd cover 2 little quick things here. Anti-trans activist Matt Walsh is losing thousands because he won't stop misgendering Dylan Mulvaney. Basically, Matt Walsh has been demonetized on YouTube, and he claims that he was earning $100,000 a month from YouTube. So, firstly, that's horrific, and secondly, that explains why he can afford to take a stand against YouTube very weakly asserting its policies that it claims to have. But there's also a good thing that YouTube are taking a hit. When they're giving someone $100,000, it's because that person is earning a lot of money for them. And they've obviously decided that the sort of small-scale advertising gains that Matt Walsh gets is not worth their overall reputational damage that he will cause to them if they allow that thing to, long-term play out. But he's now $100,000 poorer a month. And, it's similar to Twitter until Elon Musk bought Twitter and destroyed it. When right-wing reactionary shitheads and Nazis and stuff get kicked off of the mainstream platforms, they do their little stampy foot nonsense routine, and then they make their own platforms, and then they fail because no one wants to go to a platform where people are just continuously harassed, and then they come crawling back, or they just disappear into obscurity. So hopefully this is the start of that. It says here YouTube cited three violations, and he claimed that they were all related to misgendering. But man, as if misgendering is even 1% of the worst thing that he's done, and as if there's only been 3. Anyway, YouTube finally cracked, so that's good. But this is quite good as well. Being demonetized is a sign of success, he claimed. All you're telling me is that our strategy is working. We're being effective. Every attack is confirmation. That's how I see it. It's called being delusional. It tells me you're worried, you're scared. You don't know that we represent a threat. Oh, no, you know that we represent a threat to your ideology. It also confirms again that you're exactly the kind of amoral scumbags we always thought you were. But that last sentence is kind of true, because Google is an amoral scumbag corporation, like all the big corporations. They wouldn't support LGBT rights superficially, even if it wasn't going to make them money. But this, we are scared. So I guess this whole section is true. We are scared, and he does represent a threat to trans people existing, which is my ideology. But it's not working because, you just got kicked off YouTube. Anyway, he wasn't the only one. Tucker Carlson, so these are both American knobheads, if you don't know. Matt Walsh is like he's one of the bigger conservative, like independent conservative voices, I guess. He works for the Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro. Tucker Carlson is like, he is the machine. He is the most popular host on the most popular far-right news network in the US, maybe in the English-speaking world. And he's just mysteriously it kind of seems like he's been fired today. So it says here, Carlson's departure from Fox News appeared to be sudden. As of Monday morning, Fox was still previewing his show that evening, where he was set to interview Republican presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy. Carlson's show on Friday ended with the host eating pizza and saying, "We'll be back on Monday." Interesting. Carlson is leaving the network less than a week after Fox settled a defamation lawsuit with Dominion Voting Systems for, and just try and get your head around this huge amount of money, $787 million for a single lawsuit. And this isn't even the only lawsuit that they're involved in over the same thing. There's another lawsuit coming up for $2.7 billion. I haven't followed Tucker Carlson closely enough to know if he's solely responsible for this, partially responsible for this. I don't know. But it does seem potentially, at least to me and my kind of uninformed non-Fox News viewing eyes, that maybe these things are kind of related. Maybe they're just using it as an excuse to get rid of him, or maybe he has cost them money, or maybe he's causing a stir behind the scenes because he's still pushing garbage. I mean, Fox News is garbage, but last year he became the network's most watched host, averaging 3.32 million viewers. It's disgusting. But yeah, so here's a quote from the president of Media Matters, which is a left-wing organization in the US. Tucker served as the bridge between Fox News and the most extreme parts of the right-wing base, laundering anti-trans paranoia, InfoWars nonsense, election lies, and venomous rhetoric, including the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, nightly, he said. Yeah, so, I mean, maybe this will be a thing where he just goes off and joins some other network, or maybe Fox News will get someone even worse, but at least for now, short term, we can take some kind of satisfaction that one of the shittest people on earth just got a very public dunking, and hopefully his audience and Fox News's audience will be smaller as a result, because there will be lots. I mean, I've already seen conservatives saying Fox News has gone woke, so that will be bad for Fox. But also not everyone is going to jump ship to whatever he goes to, so we'll see. Good to celebrate when horrible people face mild justice, I guess. It's not really justice, is it? There's no justice at all. He'll never face any justice for anything he's ever done, but he got wrecked, at least. So we'll move on to some more British-focused news. Though we did start with British-focused news, we're coming back to England. The only two countries in the world, the USA and England, not even the UK. But no, here we have two English MPs. Rosie Duffield and Miriam Cates, who have said, Rishi Sunak here pictured actual size. Sorry, that was a short person joke. It's probably quite rude. So they have joined forces. So this is an article by Sam Lister for the Daily Express. He's their political editor. And it is fucking delusional. It is utterly ridiculous. And it's just such a good example of the British media laundering bullshit gender critical talking points and avoiding as many facts as possible. So Labour's Rosie Duffield, yes, she's still part of Labour, and Conservative Miriam Cates today issue a rallying cry for the country to come together to protect women's rights. Just remember this. Miriam Cates and also Rosie Duffield. Miriam Cates wants to protect women's rights, okay? The MPs have joined forces across the political divide because they're so different to warn that extremist trans activists, that's me, must not be allowed to wipe away a century of hard-won protections. They have become formidable standard bearers in the battle to defend single-sex spaces and the right for a woman to be called a woman despite facing intense hostility from campaigners and even some male MPs. So, like, this whole thing, like, perhaps just quickly, we'll just look at some facts about why this is so ridiculous. So here's an article by Trans Safety Network, Jess O'Thompson, who came on the show the other week, who points out that Miriam Cates has been a vocal opponent of women's rights her entire career. Miriam has spoken about the importance of women marrying and having children. She's established a think tank committed to opposing no-fault divorce and same-sex marriage. She has spoken against expanding free child care because child care ought to be undertaken by the mothers staying at home. She voted against abortion rights in Northern Ireland. She sponsored an amendment which would allow campaigners to harass women seeking reproductive health care. And she's also helped push the moral panic concerning sex education, and is on the board of a church that has been accused of conducting conversion therapy, which obviously affects lesbians as well as all other LGBT people. So this framing her as defending women's rights is just trivially bullshit. Like, there's no way an honest person could write that. Whoever wrote this guy, Sam Lister, is a liar. Ironically, I guess I don't actually know if Sam Lister is a man or a woman. I don't know their pronouns. It's the fun of having a gender neutral name and not listing your pronouns. This will become relevant later on. Call forwards or whatever it's called. Flash forward, I don't know. But so yeah, this is obviously totally ridiculous, but then they suggest that the only pushback is from men, even though loads of women MPs have pushed back against this. The majority of MPs who have like come out and explicitly said something pro-trans in Parliament are women. The majority of women in the country support trans rights, and most people who support trans rights are women. So they're just trying to push this bullshit framing. I mean, there's been hostility towards Miriam Cates and Rosie Duffield and every other anti-trans knobhead from loads of people, mainly women. Mainly cis women, by the way, not just trans women. This is not about being anti-trans. It's about making sure one person's interests do not override another's. But they are calling to remove trans people's rights because of their interests, which wouldn't even affect them, other than obviously feeling smug about taking away our rights and not having to see us in public. It's just completely ridiculous. This sentence from the article is interesting because although this is very clearly like, you know, the British media does this all the time where they try and suggest the only opposition is from men, and they talk about defending women's rights and all this kind of stuff when they're actually actively campaigning to remove trans people's rights. But then they've said here, and also down here, they talk about people who believe you can't change sex or whatever, defending people who believe they can't change sex. But then he says, services like domestic violence refuges and rape crisis centres, as well as hospital wards, have opened their doors to trans women. Yes, for decades, it's never been an issue. Someone born a man, standard, no one's born a man, some people are born boys, but then many of whom remain biologically male. So obviously implying that you can change to being biologically female. So if you believe that, then why wouldn't these services be open to trans women? Anyway, total nonsense. I don't know whether I should say this next thing about this photo, but you know what transvestigators are like. If you show someone a picture of two women and one of them is taller than the other, there will be some transvestigators who will transvestigate this photo, is what I'm saying. I think it's disgusting when people transvestigate, but I also think it's kind of funny when it happens to transphobes, so Just saying. But yeah, so this is obviously total fucking nonsense, and Rosie Duffield should be in a right-wing party like the Conservatives, and newspaper journalists like Sam Lister, gender unknown in this moment to me, should maybe do some basic research and have some basic integrity as a person, and right when they say Miriam Cates is defending women, say, but also she's consistently voted against women's rights in her entire career, so get fucked. Anyway, it's total garbage. But talking of, being fired for thinking sex is real and pronouns and all this kind of rubbish, here is a letter from someone who worked at Houghton University. I don't actually know if I said that right or where this university is. A university in the USA. Got fired, at least in part, because she refused, a cis woman, refused to remove her pronouns from her email signature. So I'm not going to do a gender critical. I'm not going to pretend that the only reason she was fired was because of pronouns, because they give two reasons. It says, you previously tendered your resignation advising that you did not intend to return next year. So this is like, early in the academic year, and she's saying she's not going to come back next year. However, as a result of your refusal to remove your pronouns, reason 1, in your email signature, in violation of our policy, and false and defamatory statements attributed to you in a recent article, please advise the following. You are relieved of your duties effective immediately. So, literally just fired on the spot for defamatory statements, but also enough, this pronouns thing contributed enough to be listed amongst the two reasons and the first reason. No news articles about this. Every time, like constantly, almost weekly, there is some news article about someone who was arrested or fired or murdered or whatever for getting someone's pronoun wrong once. And it's always false. It's always just total bullshit. When you go through to the actual source, it turns out that didn't actually happen, and no one's been killed for getting pronouns wrong. But no, they haven't been fired. They've just not had their contract renewed or something, which is a bit different to this. And it's always they've been harassing trans people relentlessly for months, and they've always been doing loads of disgusting things, and it's never like a pronoun thing. And then here, the exact opposite has actually happened. Someone has actually been fired, at least in part because they just have written pronouns in their email signature. They're not even disrespecting people. They're not like insulting people who don't put their pronouns in their signature or something. They literally just have them, and that is in part reason. And we'll get no news articles about this at all. It's just going to disappear. And it's just, the double-sided bullshit of the media and how transphobic it is. Very frustrating. Right, the next couple are really heavy and very frustrating, so just bear in mind, but it's just going to be a couple of minutes. We'll get through this together, and then we're going to look at some stupid headlines, and we're going to feel better. But, so this is one of the many states that is attacking trans people at the moment. Florida's one of the ones leading the charge. Montana has banned trans healthcare for adults. I think it's Montana, or is it Missouri? There's a lot of shit states in the US. No offense, USA, but half your states are shit. I know Iowa has banned trans healthcare. They've just brought in a bathroom bill. And Florida, where Ron DeSantis is the governor, has passed a bill allowing trans kids to be removed from their families. So this is just straight up. The state can just separate up families who have trans kids. Florida's House of Representatives passed a bill on Wednesday that would let the state take away trans minors from their families if they are receiving healthcare. The measure passed by a vote of 82 to 31. The previous version of the bill passed 27 to 12, and then the amended one now goes back to the chamber for a final vote. Ron DeSantis has expressed support for the bill and will likely sign it into law if it passes. This is important to know. If you are in Florida and you have a trans kid, this is the moment. This is a clear line in the sand where you have to get out the state if you can. I mean, it's like emergency. They're potentially going to try and take away your child from you. I can't think of anything more terrifying and disgusting. That's horrific. You know, the government stealing your children because you love them. That's just beyond imagination. I couldn't imagine anything more disgusting and horrifying. If you know someone in Florida in that situation and you can help. They need you. This is like everything needs to be on the table to help these people. As in, if you can have them in your house for one night while they move on to another state, if you can give them $5, if you can, volunteer to have their child come and stay in your house briefly while they find a new school or this kind of thing. And absolutely be prepared to lie to the authorities if they come sniffing, because this is like, they're going to tear apart families and force them to detransition, torture these children. So fucking horrific. Yeah, just so grim, so unimaginably grim. And so now we're also going to hear from a trans. So this is an 18-year-old trans person. So technically an adult, but I know when you're like less than 18, or when you are maybe in your early 20s or late teenagers, being 18 does sound like an adult and it does feel like an adult. But you're not. I mean, when you've just turned 18, you're still, you're able to make your own decisions. You're an adult, but you're not in a position to just get up and leave. You're not in a position to just to be able to just take control of your whole life. I mean, who has the resources at 18 to just go and move out, or to just go and move state or something? And as this person will explain, it's just not that easy. You still have a lot of kind of leftover obligations and stuff. But this is going to be upsetting, but I just think it's important to hear from the people this actually affects, because in all of this debating and argument, we just never hear from the people who are affected. When they say this is going to be banning trans healthcare, the people you hear from are the hateful, disgusting people who want to ruin the lives of trans people. And then people like me who are fighting for these people, but who are in a position where, like, this affects me emotionally. But this isn't me. If they were taking my healthcare away, I wouldn't be sitting in my house doing, a weekly show and strongly being able to look you in the eye and tell you about this stuff. It would have broken me, and I would be in absolute panic mode doing my best to find safety. So, we need to hear from these people. And the problem is when they speak out, it puts them in danger. So, I mean, this person is brave. But I'm not sure if they... okay. They've got a hashtag here. Okay, F2M. So, Transman, he's brave speaking out. And I hope that this doesn't put him in danger to have shared this. And if he or anyone is watching and in the future comes across this video and he's pulled this video off and you want to contact me to cut this bit out, just let me know. But anyway, we're going to listen to it now. Listen to how this is affecting him.
Hello, I'm Milo Pash, and this
Okay, that is quite quiet.
is my voice 200. I'm Milo Pash, and this is my voice.
Let me just make sure this is loud enough.
232 days on testosterone.
That is not loud enough, is it? Uh-oh. I can make this go up, I think.
Hello, I'm Milo Pash, and this is my voice 232 days on testosterone. I'm an 18-year-old high school senior in spring.
That's way too loud now. this is frustrating. I'm not really sure how to make it a little bit louder.
Springfield, Missouri. And I'm scared. And I don't know what to do. Testosterone has been life-saving for me. Taking me off of testosterone now is taking away my happiness. It's taking away my health care. I'm a legal adult. I can make my own decisions. I don't know for sure because I haven't been able to get in contact with my provider. But it looks like I will have to detransition for the time being. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. I don't know. I'm going to college in Missouri, so I can't even get out. I've already committed to Kansas City Art Institute, and I don't want to give up my dream of going to art school. Oh, I have scholarships. I've already committed. It's all on the line. I don't want to have to give up my dream just to get out of this hellhole. And I don't know what to do. I really don't. I'm a legal adult. I can make my own decisions. But you are forcing me to make really fucking hard decisions. You are taking away my rights, my health care. It's not fair. But since when was America fair?
It's just so disgusting. So intense and grim. I think that this is kind of what is missed. You know, I can say things like, if you're in Florida, get out. But it's not as simple as like getting in your car and driving to another state. I mean, like this guy is faced with giving up on the dreams for his entire life. Like when you're 18, going to university and studying something or not, whichever one you want to do, you know, that can set the course of your whole entire life. And to be faced with the decision of, you know, the future of your health and who you are as a person versus the future of your career and your dreams, it's so disgusting. You know, if he goes somewhere else, it's not costless. Even if he was a millionaire, this wouldn't be an easy decision. It's just so disgusting. I mean, I'm sure everyone watching this show will be able to empathize with it, but, you know, just on the off chance there are any gender critical people who are completely devoid of empathy, for trans people watching, just imagine if you were forced to turn into a woman in order to carry on with your career or your study. Or if you are a woman, if you were forced to turn into a man. But that's the decision being forced upon these people. And if you're gender critical, you have to view all this stuff in abstract and the hypothetical. Say, oh, what about these people who regret it and stuff? But the reason you always focus on that, the 0.5% who are in that situation, is because you don't want to think about these people whose lives you're ruining. You're ruining these people's lives for nothing. You're causing suffering, and you turn off your empathy because you have to. But yeah, you need to watch this stuff. And this is one person. There are thousands of people like this in this situation. And this guy's 18. Like, being an 18-year-old and facing this is horrific. Some of these people are a lot younger than 18, and some of these kids are going to be taken away from their families, which is going to destroy their lives. Like, unambiguously. Tearing apart a family for no reason from loving parents. What are you going to do? Arrest the parents if they try and see their kids? Torture them until they're adults, and then like that's going to give them lifelong issues to deal with, and then they're going to seek out transition anyway. Like, it's so indescribably sick. And I just don't think people are treating them enough weight. Like, it's obviously the trans community and then the wider LGBT community are screaming about this. And if you have trans friends and family and you're a cis person and you're straight as well, you'll be screaming about this. But everyone else, I mean, like all these big left-wing organizations will say, oh yeah, you know, Tucker Carlson, he's transphobic and that's why it's good he's gone, because he's also... And like, it's just one line. Like, why aren't more people doing stuff about this? I don't know. It's just so horrific. It's so unfathomably, I can't say that, horrific. I just don't think the reaction's big enough. Yeah, that's just crazy. Anyway, I think that guy is very brave. And I hope that he and everyone else in his position find find a way out of it. Right. We're going to move on to some stupid headline stuff. We're going to try and pick up from this low energy. There are ways out of this. There are charities to help people. The trans community is very strong. We're here for each other. If this affects you, DM me or someone, or, we'll do our best. Yeah, we'll get through this as a community. And lots of these people are going to get out and they're going to thrive and they're going to become strong people and they're going to get through it. And then when we see all these stupid fucking headlines from the 20s, we will look back and laugh and shake our heads at how insane they are. So the first one we're going to look at is this from the Times. So the Times did this headline. Judy Blume, who is a children's author. I'm behind J.K. Rowling 100%. That's a quote, apparently. The best-selling children's writer... the Times, obviously, is transphobic as shit, and they love J.K. Rowling. The best-selling children's writer has shaped the minds of millions, just like the Harry Potter author, and she's every bit as controversial. So they published this, and then straight away, she published a statement on Twitter saying... So this is her Twitter. Used to have a blue tick. I wholly support the trans community. My point, which was taken out of context, is that I can empathize with a writer or person who has been harassed online. I stand with the trans community and vehemently disagree with anyone, J.K. Rowling, who does not fully support equality and acceptance for LGBT people. Anything to the contrary is total bullshit. And hopefully more people saw this, 17 million, than saw the shitty Times article in the first place. So, well done to Judy. That is a good response. And it just shows how lots of this stuff is just totally fucking made up. Like, the Times continuously just entirely fabricates things. Maybe she said that. And I can imagine a situation where she may have said this. Like, I might say that too. Like, if J.K. Rowling is talking about the time when she was sexually assaulted, like she did in her essay, and the fears of what that leads to the rest of your life, then I am behind her 100%, because I can empathize with that, having also been sexually assaulted before. And, I support anyone who's been in that position, unless they then go on to try and use it as an excuse to take away human rights. So, yeah, ridiculous headline. And it kind of got me thinking, what are the other ridiculous headlines of the past? So let's look at some of them. This is one of my favorites. This is from... Oh, I'm on the archive version. This is from the Times. Tavistock Gender Clinic. Notice the quotes here. Very suspicious. To be sued by 1,000 families. If you didn't have the quotes here, the statement, Tavistock Gender Clinic to be sued by 1,000 families, would be a claim that 1,000 families were about to sue the Tavistock Gender Clinic. However, this is a quote because it's literally just made up. Lawyers. It turns out, so lawyers expect about 1,000 families to join a medical negligence lawsuit. This was from last year, obviously hasn't happened. And they didn't actually expect it. This is just like I don't know, I've heard them described as ambulance chasers. The kind of law firms who are like, hey, have you been, affected by an accident at work that wasn't your fault? Call us and we'll sue someone and we'll, get some money out of it. So this was just an advert put out saying, maybe there's thousands of people. Let's all do a class action lawsuit. I mean, there may be one in the future, but there are currently 0 families suing the Tavistock over trans healthcare. 0. The thing is, this is only last year and lawsuits do move slowly. And every time you see one of these things, you're like, oh, maybe I'll be eating my words in, another 6 months' time, because maybe there will be 1,000 people suing the clinic. But the thing is, I remember seeing them talking about this when I first started campaigning for trans rights in 2016. And if you search, they've actually been talking about this for decades. Ever since they first started trans healthcare for trans kids, they were like, oh, any day now there's going to be thousands of lawsuits. It's like a doomsday prediction from Gender Criticals. It's like one of their, any day now, people are all going to wake up and trans people will be eradicated. Any day now there'll be thousands of lawsuits. Any day now Graham Linehan's wife will come back. It's one of their prediction things that keeps them going. It's how cults operate. They always have like doomsday predictions. Fucking ridiculous. Classic times, sneaky quotes to make it sound. And I've seen people quote this to me as a fact so many times. They're like, oh yeah, well, what about the 1,000 families who have sued the Tavistock? It's like, what families? There is literally none. And then they link this article. And the Times know. They know when they did this exactly what response this would have. The next one, also in the Times, by one of our favourites, Janice Turner, who is one of the most deranged of the journalists in the British media who attack trans people. This article, this is just so crazy. Children sacrificed to appease trans lobby. So they've got giant like Mayan temples with blood sacrifice at the top to appease the lobby. It's not even to like achieve something, just to keep us happy, because without appeasement we will destroy God. Completely ridiculous. This one's from 2017. This one was like an OG gender critical headline. To think that there were people like J.K. Rowling level brain rot 2023 in 2017. There were people whose brains had melted from trans people existing in the 60s even. So they were going. It wasn't such a big deal then, but this is when the Times kind of entered the fray with the we have no grip on reality. We will write whatever the fuck we like. We will write something this crazy. I don't know how any rational person could look at this and not be like, oh, that's fucking mental, isn't it? What are you talking about? From Topshop's cave in on changing rooms. Topshop's never had a ban on trans people. To the SNP's guidance for schools, saying that trans kids exist. There's a mindless rush to appear right on. No, there's a mindful, incredibly snail's pace progress to trans people having the same rights as you. No sacrifice needed. You ridiculous fucking clown. Moving on to the next one. This is it. This is what we were talking about earlier. I'm sorry to announce in Lesbian Visibility Week, the lesbians don't exist anymore. Lesbians facing extinction as transgenderism becomes pervasive. Campaigners. I wonder which campaigners. Campaigners warn. This is like, the British media does this so much. I mean, I'm sure all media does this garbage, but this is such a fucking classic British media thing. Just to say campaigners. They fail to mention that, at least in the headline, that these campaigners are like science-denying cultists. It's like just where they just have a quote and then they just attribute it to someone who sounds like they could be official. Like they'll say experts, and it turns out the experts are in something completely unrelated. Controversial campaign group, LGB Alliance, insists lesbians don't have penises and is calling for a better recognition of women's rights. So they're trying to make them sound more saying they're trying to snap you in with a crazy headline. And then they try to, but they're actually quite reasonable. Well, you know, they just want better women's rights. They just think women don't have penises. But is that so crazy, guys? Yes, because they think that trans people existing is causing lesbians to become extinct. A bit great replacement, to be honest. But also, this was from Christmas Day. Someone woke up and like got in a rage over this on Christmas Day, and it ruined their Christmas Day because they're transphobic. And they were like, "Oh, I can't believe they're erasing lesbians!" Like probably a lot of straight men who wanted to have a wank and were angry about the idea of it. Just totally delusional, but extra delusional, knowing in 2020 and in 2021 we had some studies from the US, and now we've had the census results from the UK showing that actually there are more lesbians, or at least more people openly lesbians, any point in recorded history. Because as trans rights gain acceptance, gay rights gain acceptance, and vice versa, because they're very linked. So the more people come out as trans is a better sign of how healthy society is, and then the more people will be coming out as lesbians, and vice versa. I mean, this is before even we acknowledge the fact that there are some trans lesbians too, but even if you just ignore them because you hate trans people, a trans man who is attracted to women coming out isn't a lesbian disappearing or becoming extinct. It's a trans man. And you, like, if you're a transphobic, gender critical person, even if you're a transphobic lesbian, even if every other single person on earth was a trans man, you wouldn't actually be affected by that because, well, I mean, I guess if your partner transitioned, you might be affected. But if you and your partner were both transphobic together and every other person on earth was trans, it wouldn't affect you because you don't own their bodies. It's not your right to be sexually attracted by them. If someone, a man or a woman who you fancy, comes out and transitions and you no longer fancy them, that's nothing to do with you. Get bent. Fuck off. Maybe get bent isn't the best phrasing. Sorry. But yeah, just insane. I think the next one is my favorite of all time, and we have actually covered this on this show before, but I just wanted to put this at number one, and I think this is going to have to be, because with this feature didn't exist last time, Clown of the Week to Janet Street Porter. Janet Street Porter. I'm all for transgender people getting equal treatment. But please don't make me sacrifice my breasts in the name of political correctness. What are you talking about, you absolute fucking clown? My goodness. Like, you don't have to sacrifice. Why are they constantly on about sacrifice? Nothing that trans people want requires anything from you at all, other than you to stop harassing people. Like, if everyone around you is trans, you can just get on and talk to them like everyone else. It doesn't affect you at all. Why do you think your breasts are being sacrificed? Just so utterly ridiculous. But yeah, if you want to learn more about this particular article, you'll have to go back and watch the old episode we did on it, I guess, around February 2021 when it came out. Just so ridiculous. Like, how there are so many of these headlines where it's just like, you just read them and like, you've got no grip on reality at all. Where has this stuff come from? What? Lesbians going extinct, being sacrificed your breast, children being sacrificed. What the fuck are you talking about? We're literally just existing. How can you write that? Like, I mean, I guess if you're some like ridiculous clown, you write this stuff. I mean, they must be lying. They must know they're lying. No one is that stupid. Like, Janice Turner is lying. She knows it. She's not stupid. She knows what she's doing. Janet Street Porter must be like, what are you talking about? No one is that stupid. Surely. I mean, maybe they're just that stupid. I don't know. To be honest, maybe they are just... But how can anyone else reading... Like, I'm trying to give them credit that they're evil rather than stupid, but how could anyone see these headlines and be won over by them? I mean, really? If I was gender critical, I'd be embarrassed by this. Anyway, moving on. We're going to cover some brain rot now. And I still haven't done the music for my brain rot button, I'm sorry. Well, imagine we had a cool brain rot. I made a meme. Here's my meme. Do you like it? Someone done a cartoon. Which website would you like to see? And there's a little incognito made. And I changed what he was saying. So here he is saying, adult human female defend women's sports, trans men and men. And then when incognito mode comes out, he looks for trans porn. This is very classic. And it's just confirmed by statistics, actually from Pornhub, pointing out that the searches for trans porn is much higher in states with anti-trans laws in the US than it is in trans-positive ones. And that makes sense if you understand, like feminist... Pardon me, sorry. If you understand, feminist analysis on porn and stuff, for ages has pointed out that in more bigoted places, the porn of the things that people are bigoted about is more popular because they see the whatever minority as exotic and forbidden and a taboo and inferior, and they want to vent their sexual frustration in that direction. But this meme melted a few brains, as you might expect. Everything any trans person posts on the internet melts some brains. But this person says, is there any evidence of this, or is this just projection? Of course, yes, there's loads of evidence for this. There's the statistics. And also the personal experience of thousands of trans people who encounter this stuff every single day. But also from this fucking guy. This person's a big dumb idiot man. Imagine being owned by a big dumb idiot man. It's your likes are public, right? Why are they like this? My goodness. Wasn't the only person whose brain was melted by this. This person who says lesbian is taken, TM. They've trademarked and copyrighted that phrase, allegedly. It's oh, well, this is a dunk on my meme, because I'm obviously I'm, crazy trans person. I'm oh, have you noticed how lots of the men in particular, but also probably some of the women who support trans rights are obsessed with trans porn, and they'll be calling you a man in tweets and then asking to see your genitals and boobs in DMs. And this person's well then, dunk, because Pornhub reports that trans porn consumption is up 75% to become the third most popular. So if I am asserting that transphobic people watch porn, then the fact that trans porn is going up means that most people must agree with me. Haha, dunk. You realise this is a hilarious cell phone, don't you, mate? Yeah, okay. Most of the people addicted to trans porn are on your side. Cool. I guess you win. I guess the point that I made here is true. Nice one. Good dunk. Very, very intelligent. Moving on, we got some more brain rot, and I think, I don't know. This would be this is brain rot of the week. We've already done clown of the week. I'm not going to press it. I'm not going to press the what the fuck button because I know exactly what the fuck. But here is a cartoon from some idiot who's paid for a blue tick. So if you don't go on Twitter, you used to get these ticks if you were somebody, and now nobody's buy them, and all the somebodies don't have them. So they're reversed over. So this is a sign you're a twat, basically. So this person says, so true. And then there's a cartoon of 3 trans women who I've censored here because they all had penises out, standing in a helpfully labelled women's changing room saying, well, this sucks. So this is already just so ridiculous because obviously the implication here is that the only reason that trans women want to use women's spaces is because they want to perv on cis women. I mean, there's so many layers of stupid here. Obviously, even if you suggested that all trans women are perverts, which is trivially false, trans women date each other all the fucking time, so they'd probably love this. If 3 trans women who were actually perverts were put into a room together, they'd probably like that. Like, what are you talking about? Like, trans women being attracted to trans women is a meme. Loads of the trans women I know are in relationship with other trans women, but also it's just fucking stupid because trans women are perverts. And the reason we use women's spaces is because of the same reason that any other woman uses women's spaces, because we want to be safe and have private spaces to escape misogynistic sexism, etc. Because we're women. Anyway, I was like, this is fucking dumb. So true they say something that is about... So true they say about something that has never happened even once. And then this dude, who's a bit of a weirdo, shows up and says, it's more about how much they'd hate it if it happened. So, like, it's like they're well, nevertheless. For sure, I might have made this up, but just imagine if it was true. It's like, well, who's they? Trans women. Why would... In actual reality, if you as a trans person are forced to go in an open plan changing room that doesn't have cubicles in 2023, and you went in and the only other person in there was a trans woman, you'd be like, oh, thank fucking God. What a relief. The chance of me being assaulted now or attacked or demanded to leave and because I want to mind my own business has drastically shot down. I mean... So, like, as if trans women don't want to be in a situation where there are any other trans women. Trans people seek each other out because we have things in common and get each other and aren't likely to attack each other. Total nonsense. Anyway, he's like, reminds me of that post about a man who thinks he's a lesbian who was so upset for a blind date that he was set up with another man who thinks he's a lesbian rather than an actual lesbian. He was enraged, apparently. Oh yeah, what's this post? This one, says someone, and here we have some cartoon saying exactly that. Someone saying, oh, do you want to meet my lesbian friend? And then it's another disgusting transphobic parody of a trans person. And he's like, oh yeah, that's the one. So your evidence of how trans women really react in this made-up cartoon scenario is another made-up cartoon scenario of something that never happens. So fucking ridiculous. Like, my goodness, everything that they believe is just built on transphobic memes of other bullshit that they've made up. Like they're eating their own dog food. Wait, isn't that meant to be a good thing? They only eat their own dog food. That's just ridiculous. The stuff that reassures them that they're right. Like, oh yeah, sure, we have no evidence, but imagine if we did. Then it would be bad, wouldn't it? Yeah, I guess so. I guess if, for some reason, trans women didn't want to be around other trans women, weren't attracted to each other, and were all perverts, then it would be pretty bad, I guess. But obviously, it's all fucking nonsense, mate. So now we're going to cover our dickhead of the week. The meta list of all of the buttons that I can press. So... this person, this is a parent of a trans person. I don't know if it's trans kid or a trans adult. I presume adult. Sometimes you get these posts in gender critical spaces. They're like, oh, you know, my dearest daughter has just come out as wanting to be a man and I'm devastated. And they all say like, oh, it's okay. You should just force them to not be themselves and conform to your bullshit. It's just a standard genre of gender critical post. But rarely you see them where they've been doing that for 10 years because, I mean, to some level of understandable, I think growing up in a transphobic society, having your kid come out as trans is distressing for a lot of people. And although it's not good, if you go through a little transphobic spiral for a year or something, and then apologize and come out of it and become a supporter of your child, then that's kind of normal in a sense. I mean... it's not great, but like if you do something transphobic and then you grow and become a better person, then I personally can forgive you from that. You know, people aren't born knowing things, and they are indoctrinated their whole lives into being transphobic. It is quite rare to see someone being a dickhead 10 years later. I just don't know how you can... anyway, I'll read it out. After 10 years navigating my son's gender dysphoria, I was understandably devastated when I learned that he had started testosterone. Surgery is booked for double mastectomy. I'm so touched by the outpouring of support. I'm so pleased that this unfortunate exchange has resulted in me finding more amazing accounts to connect with and follow. It warms my heart. How many people are on the side of truth and common sense? 10 years. Like, that your kid has been telling you, this is who I am, I need to do this. And 10 years of you pushing back. And you still failed because you can't stop someone from being LGBT just by demanding that they change for you because you're a selfish shithead. And he's going ahead with medical transition. And, like, if he's booked double mastectomy, then he's already been medically transitioning for a while and probably just had the guts to tell you because it's something major. And your response is to just go and dig even deeper into your stupid cult that's going to just tell you that it's okay that you don't love your kid. Like, it's just... Gender critical is ruining people's lives. It's ruining this, probably man's life. This boy's life. I don't know which. Probably man. If he's getting double mastectomy, I'd probably is 18. Ruining this man's life. But it's also ruining this lady's life. Like, imagine it if the people are, if she wasn't surrounded by some, like, hate cult that desperately wants to keep her in a constant state of despair, maybe someone would have told her, look, you need to snap out of this. You're throwing away your relationship with your kid. What are you doing? But if you're surrounded by, like, it's like when these billionaires get surrounded by yes men. They just need someone to tell them to fucking sort it out. And maybe in a time when we didn't have this big international gender critical hate cult validating everything that anyone thinks that's remotely negative of trans people, then we wouldn't have people who are convinced by it that what they're doing is right for 10 years. Ugh, horrible. I don't know. I hope that she comes around and realizes that her kid is a man now and is happier. Because for his sake and for hers, really. I mean, it's horrible. Now we're going to do some transvestigation. Best bit of the show. Last bit of the show. Well, nearly. We're going to end on a happy note. So here we go, folks. The Leah Thomas psyop. This is some transvestigation material, which is perfect. Leah Thomas is a trans woman swimmer who had controversy because she won a race and had a record which has since been beaten. Poppy. And they're all raging about it, but this person has discovered the truth. So here is Riley Gaines, who is an anti-trans activist and a cis women swimmer. I don't actually know who Emma Wayant is, but presumably the same. I don't know. But here they say, 1, all Olympic female athletes are males. So, as they've helpfully labelled here, Emma and Riley are males. So a giant hybrid female can be huge, especially if they take testosterone and steroids. For example, NFL and NBA stars Arnold Schwarzenegger and The Rock. Oh, it's so good. So that's why Leah Thomas is a cis woman. Or maybe not. Because although she has the hip dip and apparently these two don't. These invert stories in the news are designed to upset humans, and they're almost always inverted psyops. Most, if not all, outed inverts are double flipped, so maybe Leah isn't actually a cis woman, but is in fact a... Wait, no, that would make her a trans woman? Like Caitlyn Jenner, who was born female and then inverted to male to be an Olympic athlete, and then went back to female. Why? Other double flippers include RuPaul. Jazz Jennings, Chaz Bono, Ellen Page, and Dylan Mulvaney. Do they think RuPaul is trans? And more. So there we go. Very interesting. We've got a little zoom in here. Leah Thomas, a giant female who was inverted and masculized from birth, hence the shoulders and lack of femininity. Now she they're trying to misgender her and getting it right because they think that she's a F to M to F transitioner. D-trans woman. Now she's been used to anger ignorant humans. It's weird they're talking about us like they're aliens. By racing against biological male. Like Riley Gaines. She's deliberately pulling her suit up unnaturally to show off her hips and mock humans. Flaring hip. Hips do not lie. Leah, your female hips have given the game up. Oh, it's just so good. I feel like it's like a fine wine, Transvestigation propaganda. Like 10 out of 10. Love it. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, well, kind of the last announcement thingy. This is my friend Ben, who you may know as Student Dr. Ben. He is no longer Student Dr. Ben. He is now Dr. Ben. He's a trans man, and he's often one of the co-hosts on the Transatlantic Call-In Show, which is my trans rights call-in show, which you can catch on The Line, a different channel, if you would like to watch that or call in. And he has graduated from medical school. And that is very difficult. And it's just amazing that there are trans people now coming up and being doctors, and they're able to help everyone. But also that means that maybe when you go and see the doctor, you will get a trans person, and your risk of being transphobed goes down. So Ben says, I keep crying as I think about what I would tell little Ben if I could go back in time. You won't believe it, but someday you'll have a chance. Oh, someday you take a chance and your dreams will come true. 11 years led to this picture. So Ben is recovering, I think, right now, maybe, from surgery. So I thought I'd just take this moment to celebrate him because I'm proud of him and of any trans person who's achieved this, because it is hard. But yeah, congratulations, Dr. Ben. But so that's kind of the end of the show. But I just thought I'd just say one extra thing, which is if you want to go to my channel, I just did a video yesterday about writing to the our MPs about the EHRC thing. If you're in the UK, please do write to your MP. If you want just a chill session where we go through it and do it together, you can go watch that video. Even if you just sent anything, even if you, like, I know this video is an hour long, you can put it on ×2. The actual stuff I wrote isn't very long. There's loads of examples linked in the description. Just write something. I think it's important, even if it's just one sentence saying, please, can you protect trans rights? Just write something to your MP. And also, you get to learn this little fun story at the start about when I had a really embarrassing and horrifying moment when I went to a wedding on the weekend, which is funny. Please do. And then also you can click the subscribe button. Apparently I'm not even subscribed to me. I guess this is a different YouTube account. Anyway, if you would like, please do write to your MP. I think it will make a difference. But yeah, so that's the show this week. There was lots of news. Some of it was horrible, as always, because trans people in the 20s, we never have one good day where there's no horrible news. But we're getting through it as a team and as a community. And there's always some stuff we can see the good in things when dickheads lose their shows, or when transvestigators do their stuff because they're amazing, or when some of us achieve our life goals and become doctors or whatever you want to do. Trans people can do it. Even though life is harder, if you're trans, you can still do it. And I think examples of trans people succeeding give me hope of that. And I know that if I was someone considering coming out as a trans man who wanted to be a doctor, seeing someone just do it would have pushed me over the edge. Seeing, some other trans women succeeding like 10 years ago or whatever was what pushed me over the edge to come out. So good stuff. There is good stuff here, guys. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you next week. I think I'm not going to be in the country. Probably back. Still to be confirmed, but should be back. 9 p.m. UK time next week live, and I'll see you there. It should be good. Please like and subscribe. Thanks to all the super chatters.